Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, with Dorian almost done being problematic for the United States, I thought it'd be neat to just show you how challenging of a forecast this has been. So the animation we're about to watch here is every advisory put out by the National Hurricane Center and its 5-day forecast cone. And look at how much this particular system moved on us in the Caribbean here, jumping then north of Puerto Rico, taking aim on Florida, but then turning at the last minute due to some weak steering currents as it went over the Bahamas. It did get very close yesterday to the U.S. coastline here, and I don't fully understand why this happened, but Dorian brought out the best in some people and the worst in others. Just thought it'd be kind of funny to show you this. I don't know why, but some guy decided to see how far into the ocean he could drive his Jeep, and of course it stalled out and he had to go away. But this guy decided to go out and play his bagpipes on it yesterday. A little bit of Amazing Grace here. So you know what? Some of the greatest people in the world live along the east coast of the United States, and they had to endure this just yesterday. And so this is our radar animation here showing us where Dorian was over the last 24 hours or so. You can see that it stayed offshore for the most part. It does appear as though the eyewall did make landfall somewhere around Cape Hatteras, just to the south of Cape Hatteras yesterday. But what was very unique about this storm was the number of tornadoes that it produced. So on that northern edge, we were watching this very closely mid-morning yesterday. We saw that there were several supercell thunderstorms spinning in one of the spiral rain bands. We actually got 14 reports of tornadoes. You can see them right here on our storm reports map. Now, just to take you in and show you what it looked like, each one of these little supercells here, supercells running around the outer edge of this hurricanes. We're going to use our Newport radar here. Each one of these little storms actually had little hook echoes on the back side of them, and they were rotating, and they were producing just a series of tornadoes coming off of the ocean and then eventually here on shore here in and around Newport, Morehead City, and all of the cities to the west of this. And so a lot of damage and destruction even before the main rainfall from Dorian got there. Now, speaking of the main rainfall, take a look at the last 72 hours as of about 4 o'clock in the morning on Friday, what we had in terms of total rainfall. There were several locations right there along the coast of South Carolina and North Carolina that did see in excess of 6 inches of rainfall, locally very heavy amounts in some places. Now, outside of that, the rest of the southern region really was very, very dry. Fernand did put down quite a bit of heavy rainfall here over southern Texas, which was desperately needed. But overall, with the flow pattern doing something like this in the upper levels of the atmosphere, you know, we really were in this stagnant pattern of higher atmospheric pressure and drier conditions across much of the rest of the southern region. Now, before we get to that longer range precip forecast, I do just want to let you know that even though Dorian is on the way out and we do have a couple of weak disturbances that are not expected to, at this point, to be problematic for the United States, also Gabrielle out here still just kind of spinning, not doing much. We still have active convection coming off the west coast of Africa, and we're going to watch a disturbance right here over the next 10 to 15 days as it moves across the main development region in the Atlantic. I don't have a lot of details on it. I've been looking at some of the steering currents. I completely agree, of course, with the National Hurricane Center, who are the best in the business about this potential path here. So we're going to keep an eye out on all of that in this coming forecast, okay? But over the next 5 days, we continue to see much of the same. You see that much of our southern region is quite dry, while the storm track really barrels through the northern part of the United States. And so when we even stretch this out to 15 days, we see a very similar pattern. So if there is a place that does have quite a bit of chance for getting some rainfall, it might be in this corridor here, but it looks as though outside of hit or miss showers and thunderstorms and some of the heat we're going to be seeing, a lot of our southern region is very, very dry in the coming days, really in the next 2 weeks it looks like at this point. So just watch. We'll just animate here for you our high-resolution forecast from the NAM model. This is just looking out over the next 60 hours or so, getting us out to 1 p.m. on Sunday. We really lack any of the major features bringing in a lot of precipitation. So the main story is going to be this storm track running through the northern part of the United States, really avoiding the southern region, as you can see here. So other than some widely scattered storms in parts of the mid-south, that you can see here. Let's watch it again. These coming through potentially tonight into early tomorrow morning. That'd be early Saturday morning. We're kind of missing out on a lot of the precip. We do need to keep an eye out for those of you that watch this video in parts of Kansas and Missouri. This is overnight hours on Saturday getting into Sunday. You can see the storms right there being forecast by the NAM model. But other than that, pretty dry forecast here. If we stretch this out using our longer range models, let's just pause this right here. And I want to play this quickly for you so you can see the overall flow. But I want you to see how it's largely doing something like this, okay? Do you see that? And one of the reasons for that, if I just kind of go back and forth, I'm just taking out 1 week, this is 1 week's worth of rainfall, is because we're going to see a storm track that favors the northern states. I've said that a few times now. And over the east and over the southeast, we're letting this subtropical ridge kind of dominate things. So you can see the next major storm system here. This is Saturday, getting into Sunday. This emerges on the Great Plains by early Monday morning and races north. Now, its main cold frontal boundary, you can see, is stretched right in through here, and this is why I said that this particular part of Texas and New Mexico may see some storms on the tail end of this. But outside of that, it's going to be hit or miss showers and storms, mostly concentrated, as you see down here, right along the coast. This is a lot of sea breeze action in our thunderstorm activity. But in general, a higher atmospheric pressure. You can see this, the center of it sitting right in through this area. And as a consequence, we just keep this flow in place, and it's just the wrong type of flow to be bringing in a lot of precip. And we just don't see it breaking down, even as I take you out a week, maybe even farther. Now, what we do have to be on the lookout for as each one of these bigger systems races through the northern plains into southern Canada is their front will eventually drape through the northern part of the southern region. But these fronts, when they are not when they don't keep their strong southward progression, they tend to flatten out like this with time. They serve as very weak boundaries on which storms will fire. So that's why you see this overall general drier pattern moving through the next several days here across the southern region, okay? Another explanation for this is just to take a look at the upper level flow of the atmosphere, particularly how the west coast initially begins to favor troughing. And you can see it again here showing up by the middle of, or at least the third week of the month. So let me show what I mean. Dorian is, of course, this trough here exiting. And then behind it, look at the ridge building in the middle part of the country. We're going to see what the heat on that looks like over our next 5 or 6 days. We see that by Monday and Tuesday of next week, deep trough comes into the western United States. So that's going to build quite a bit of heat, gosh, over much of our southern region here as the flow does this, okay? Keeping forward, we see that hanging around until next Wednesday, Thursday. And you see the trough sweeping from the Pacific Northwest to the Central Plains, that blue there? That's our active storm track. And we're to the south of it here in the southern region. Now, one thing I did notice is that as I got out here to the 18th, 19th, and 20th. Can you see how the model is really trying to bring in some lower heights into this area? This could be a reflection of the ensemble model here, picking up on more active tropical activity in that area. So lowering the heights there due to some tropical activity, but we really just don't break down away from this broader troughing feature that keeps kind of sweeping into the western United States. So when we put that all together, take a look at what this does to temperatures. We'll let this play out real quick and then take you back through it. High temperatures today on Friday, we got a lot of heat down here in parts of eastern Texas and Louisiana. Upper 90s, lower 100s. You can see as we get into Saturday, gosh, the southern region is just hot, very hot. This is now Sunday into Monday, Tuesday. It's this time period that system starts going through the northern plains. So maybe the reason why we see some cooler weather here is just rain-cooled air and more cloud cover in parts of western Texas. But look, Tuesday into Wednesday, the heat just stays on throughout much of our southern region. This is next Thursday, Friday. We just see it. We see a lot of these 90-degree temperatures here. So putting that all together, look at your next 5 days. The heat is really on for the southern region while we have our first trough exiting here off the the northeastern part of the U.S. and Canada. Then days 6 through 10 over here on the right. Boy, that's when that ridge really builds in. Remember, the flow does this, and with that big high pressure center there, remember I told you the flow around it, something like this, while the storm track is focused up here. That's just going to be a very warm pattern. And then taking all the way to today, 11 through 15, it's interesting to see that because of the weaker flow that we are seeing and the broader trough doing something like this way out in the Gulf of Alaska, much of the U.S. here is shown in having warmer than average conditions. So this is that's our main forecast. Now, just yesterday, or actually late last night, we saw the release of the new long-range European model. I just want to kind of give you an update on what it is picking up on. So the main flow pattern that it's trying to look out for this winter, which is interesting given the fact that we have this fading ENSO neutral toward La Nina condition in the Pacific. We have this warm, very warm water in the North Pacific. What it's actually picking up on is something that looks a bit more like that. Now, what does that do? Well, that certainly keeps this part of the United States on the warmer side of things. It keeps this part of the United States on the colder side of things. And I'm going to draw in green here. It keeps this part of the U.S. very active with storm systems. So our latest long-range outlook for December, January, well, I'm sorry, this is for November, December, January. So this is kind of the early winter outlook. Looks something like this in terms of temperature and precipitation patterns. So I'm going to spend the next few weeks getting a better handle on this, trying to understand a little bit better to understand what we're going to be seeing for this winter. But that's a early preliminary outlook on the flow of the atmosphere, where it's going to be hotter than normal and colder than normal, and what the precipitation pattern looks like. So a very active winter looks to be setting up for that region I just circled there in green. But we'll keep an eye on it for you and keep you updated on what the models are saying. With that, I'm going to wrap it up for the southern region. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great weekend. Talk to you next week. Thank you.